Western Jamaica campus's second annual Caribbean Community Media Public Lecture 2024. Under the theme, The Power of Media to Build Communities in the Caribbean. This event is planned and organized by a group of final year integrated marketing and communication students so that we and others can experience what it is like to produce an event at this level. The knowledge and the skills that have been learned throughout our tenure can be applied in a practical setting while simultaneously educating other media enthusiasts about the impact of media. The university understands the immense power of media in connecting people, fostering shared experiences, and building vibrant communities. And this is its contribution to the professional development of these students, as well as cultivating and maintaining strong media relationships. So, whether you're a seasoned media professional, a budding entrepreneur, or simply someone that is curious about the ever evolving media landscape, we invite you to sit back, learn, and engage with us. You will also notice a registration link in the chat. We ask that you kindly complete it. We now invite Dr. Patrick Prendergast, Campus Director of the University of the West Indies Mona, Western Jamaica Campus, to come and deliver the welcome message.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lindsay. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all, first I want to thank the organizers for the invitation to bring brief remarks at what is indeed a very, very special engagement for both the campus and the world of community media. In essence, it is my responsibility, I think, to welcome you to the University of the West Indies, Mona, Western Jamaica campus. Secondly, I want to ask for a special acknowledgement of the students who are pursuing their undergraduate degree in integrated marketing communication here at the University of the West Indies, Mona, Western Jamaica campus. Indeed, this is the last cohort of CARIMAC students at WJC for a while, and I must say, they are indeed closing out on a bang. So I want you all to just big up, show some love and respect. Students, I know you have had a very busy academic year. I want to especially thank you for organizing our 15th anniversary Media Appreciation Lunch and Seminar in November, and of course, the overwhelmingly successful WJC Open Day earlier this year. Let me also take the time to extend our gratitude to your lecturer and coordinator, Dr. Alpha Obika, and the team of adjunct faculty in CARIMAC for their expert and professional guidance of your success in planning, executing, and evaluating these communication initiatives that have had such an incredible impact on the life of our campus and community. Thirdly, I want to commend you all for your courage in not only continuing the CARIMAC WJC public lecture, which we started way back in April 2010, but which, like so many parts of our lives, took a beating during COVID. But I'm also particularly thankful for your post-COVID focus on community media and the role of communication generally in the development of safe and healthy communities. So today's engagement with your special guest, who we must welcome deeply, dearly, Dr. Paul Hector from UNESCO, is an example of how bold you are in doing things differently, in thinking outside of the box, and in identifying with an area of your discipline that is not front of mind for most people. For those who know me, you would know that the theme for today's discussion, the power of media in building communities, means a lot to me. As a long-standing advocate for the proper application of media and communication, both as technology and as performance, to the development of our communities, I am very happy for the particular focus of this lecture. You see, we live in a region where the hegemonic media and communication content is purely entertainment. But even more critical is the fact that over 90% of this content, even if for information value, happens to be exogenous to our realities and merely promulgating the hegemonic values and culture of the society from which they originate, rather than that of the people and culture of our communities. Before the economic culture of globalization and the subsequent liberalization of Caribbean media further limited the use of media and communication to commercial purposes, several of our regional countries experienced the transformative and developmental power of media. Particularly with radio, many communities, especially those in the rural and remote parts of our region, understood what it meant to set our own agenda, to create their own content, to manage their own resources, and to use their own voices and indigenous knowledge to bring about positive change to the poor social and political realities of their communities, both at the individual and at the communal levels. Now, I'm not here calling for a dismantling of the dominant commercial for-profit media enterprises, not at all. Rather, I'm reminding the powers that be that to go on ignoring the developmental functions of media and communication is simply an act of derailing the sustainability of our communities and by extension, stymieing the people in realizing their full potential. So I put it to you that values of love and respect, defense of truth and integrity, promotion of transparency and political sophistication, and the proper conservancy of our unique cultural plurality are all critical factors in the advancement of our societies that would be better served through conscious, deliberate, and strategic embrace of media and communication grounded in the voice and experience of the people. And so, it is my distinct pleasure to endorse today's discussion and for its unfolding here at the UEMONA Western Jamaica campus, which has, since August 2008, been a true example of what it means to take the gown to the town as we seek to not only increase access to higher education for people, but to align our academic offerings with their dreams and their aspirations. This is UEMONA WJC. Here we are family, we are community, we are the people, building a culture of success and a legacy of excellence into the future. Thank you for joining us, and I wish for you a truly bold and instructive engagement. Thank you.
I would like to extend my thanks to Dr. Prendergast for delivering that welcome message. I do agree that community media is of utter importance, especially in this media age. Now, to finally introduce our keynote speaker, I'd like to hand over to Ms. Pauline Edwards. Ms. Edwards is also a member of the final year IMC students who are responsible for organizing this public lecture.
A warm good morning to you all. Dr. Paul G. Ector is the Advisor for Communication and Information in UNESCO's Regional Office for the Caribbean in Kingston, Jamaica. He joined UNESCO through its competitive Young Professionals program in 2000. Over the course of his UNESCO career, he has supported project initiatives and policy actions in Africa, Latin America, the Caribbean, Asia Pacific, and the Middle East that through research, the design and implementation of policies, strategies, and action plans have promoted access to information and knowledge for development. These initiatives have sought to address the information and knowledge divides linked to issues such as gender, language, literacy, island rural living, and disability. Paul holds multiple master and doctoral degrees and is an alumnus of the J. William Fulbright Fellowship and U.S. State Department International Visitor Leadership Programs. He has taught in a European business school and his research interests include knowledge-based development, design thinking, entrepreneurship, innovation, and digital transformation. Beyond his professional pursuits, Paul is also a coach, mentor, author. He has mentored students at the University of Washington and the University of the West Indies, and supports colleagues in finding work balance. In his recently published book, Yes You Can, 5 Steps to Becoming the CEO of Your Life, Paul shares his learnings and experiences to help readers find success on their own terms. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in extending a warm welcome to our distinguished guest, Dr. Paul G. Hector.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for this opportunity to be here. Please allow me to share my screen with you. Yes. Okay. All right. Can you just let me know if you're seeing my screen? Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. It's truly a pleasure to be here with you today. And of course, first of all, thank you for this opportunity and for the warm welcome that has been extended to me. So let me just talk about what I will be sharing with you over the next few minutes. So firstly, I'd like to talk a little bit about community media, what it is, and with specific reference to its contribution to community cohesion and community resilience. I'll also share with you some examples of the power of community media to make a difference. And I will choose the area of responding to natural hazards and disasters as my focus, because this is something which is very relevant to the Caribbean, specifically in the context of climate change. Of course, I will take some time to highlight some of the challenges that face community media and also speak about possible solutions to these challenges which present them. Of what UNESCO is doing, particularly here in the English-speaking Caribbean, to advance community media and, of course, leverage its power for building resilience and building strong communities. Okay, so, but everyone was able to hear what I said, though.
Yes, correct.
Okay, good. Okay, so I'll just go ahead now. So first of all, looking at community media and what community media is. Well, simply this refers to non-profit, not-for-profit, independent government, independent of government and commercial forces, broadcasting entities that focus very much on serving the communities that they represent. And so community media offers a sort of a third option to the commercial and national broadcasters. And this is something, as Dr. Pendergast said earlier, it's something which should be seen as a complement, you know, another path. And of course, community media helps to support a lot of those values like freedom of expression, supporting diversity, supporting pluralistic expression, giving voices to the voiceless, which are so central to things like the Sustainable Development Goals, which every country is following, and of course, the underlying Universal Declaration on Human Rights. Now, community media, this can be characterized by its focus on local concerns, the representations of interests at the community level. Often we find that there is a lot of news about what is happening in capitals, in major cities, in major towns, but very often the smaller towns are somehow forgotten. As if, you know, no one is living there. And so we find that community media can really be powerful in providing voice for rural communities, persons at the grassroots levels, minority groups, and of course, helping to raise their voices and so engage them in that whole process of community participation, community shaping, and of course, this of course moves upwards towards the whole process of nation building. And I think when we think about climate change, much of what is happening is going to happen at the community level, whether it's in a fishing village, whether it's in an agricultural community, we will see a lot of these things. So it's really important for us to look at how we can leverage community radio to address the needs of these persons, because if we're really seeking to achieve that goal of no one left behind, we really need to get to the local level. And so local media, for example, community media, this is really key. I should also add that in terms of the concept of community, we can look at it in perhaps two ways. One, which is the geographical communities, and of course we have what are called the communities of interest. So for example, I know there is a radio station, for example, in Florida, and this radio station, it broadcasts on the internet, and it's called Radio Jams, and their focus is on the Jamaican diaspora. So they're using internet, and so you have people who have a shared interest in Jamaica. This represents that community. Again, of course, as I said, we can be looking at a number of platforms. We can be looking at television, we can be looking at radio, we can be looking at online versions of radio and television, of course, thanks to convergence. And of course, it is for the community media operator to choose the mode which is perhaps most suitable to the audience, that community that they're trying to address. So again, by providing local voices with opportunities for expression, community media can really contribute to this whole idea of building social cohesion, which is really central to building a community that is resilient and responsive to the concerns that face it. And so, of course, by providing a space for local voices to come together, this is something which can be instrumental in not only mobilizing resources, building social networks, sharing ideas, supporting innovation, giving the community a collective voice, and of course, through this voice, advocating for desirable changes, changes which will help everyone. So let's talk of community resilience with respect to disasters. And of course, as I said, when we look at the global statistics, we hear that, for example, 1 billion persons around the world will be impacted by sea level rise. And these 1 billion people include people in the Caribbean. As you know, most of us, all of our capitals are very much coastal. So these are issues which are really, really central and really on our doorstep. So community media can play really a major role in building community resilience to hazards and disasters, specifically through preparedness before disasters. And by raising awareness through programming, going out, having call-in programs, sharing information, this is something which can really get the public aware of what does it mean when this hurricane comes? What are the things that we can do? What are the actions that we can take right now to prepare? And of course, we know that adage very, very well. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And this is so true. The better prepared we can be, the less the impact of these disasters, whatever type they are, can have on us. And as we know, of course, this is the role of community media spans not only the before, but it's also very crucial during and also in the post disaster, and which is often referred to as the recovery phase. And of course, again, as a platform, community media, it's something which can really bring together different sectors of society. It can bring together the authorities, the national emergency services, and so forth, and ensure that flow of information, which is really, really crucial. So let's talk a little about during disasters. So again, although community media operators are not necessarily therapists, again, through the type of content, the type of programming, they can also bring assurance, reassurance, some sense of comfort during a disaster. As I'm sure many of us many of you have also experienced hurricanes, and it's something which lasts for a long time. And of course, having that familiar voice online, that's something which really whispers hope and, helps you to sort of hold on. And of course, during that time, they can really help facilitate the flow of information from authorities, from relief agencies to the affected populations, letting people understand what is happening, how the storm, in the case of a hurricane, is progressing, and really help them to prepare for that aftermath when they can come out. And of course, during this sort of response, community media, it plays really a very key role in terms of bringing persons together, helping them to understand which areas have been affected, knowing where they can go for supplies, for whether it's healthcare, whether it's food supplies, etc. And very importantly, persons can also share their experiences, and this provides an impetus. It creates a sense of cohesion, a sense that we're all going through this together. And this, of course, reinforces that strong sense of community. Again, of course, the data which we collect from the various calls, the various interactions, this is something which can really support and help us to identify things that we can do better, lessons, things that we can use next time to make sure that we're more prepared. Now, let's talk about some of the challenges. As we've already seen, there are a number of positive and really concrete contributions that community radio can have. But at the same time, if they're so useful, we'd ask, why aren't there more of them? And the reason is that being a community radio broadcaster or any other type of community media broadcaster is really hard work, and it brings together a number of challenges, such as things like financial constraints, various expenses. We find that community radios are often operated by small teams of volunteers who do this, often, without any type of salary, any type of remuneration. Often there isn't a very good business plan developed, and so you find that the community media operators are not able to sustain the many of the sort of day-to-day operations. And while they may have great technical skills in terms of creating content, addressing issues which are of crucial importance to the society, without a business plan, the financial viability of their services will suffer. Now, I must mention, I mentioned earlier the fact that community media operates in this sort of non-profit space. However, we need to ensure, even if we're not operating for a profit, that we have revenue which can ensure sustenance. Another challenge which community media is facing has to do with changes in the demographics. For example, we see that now there's a high level of internet and smartphone penetration in many societies. And so, of course, people are turning to other sources, the internet, social media. Now, of course, due to things like convergence, community media operators need to be flexible. They need to pivot and consider offering these services, radio, etc., in formats so that persons using smartphones, using the internet, can still access them. Another challenge that we're seeing has to do with the regulatory framework. Often, community media are treated just like the much larger and much better resourced forms of media, public and national broadcasters with whom they compete. Now, the good news is that there are solutions to these challenges, and with effective strategies, community media can have a much greater role and overcome many of these challenges. And there are 4 key areas: policy development, looking at the issue of funding, of course, the whole issue around licensing and, of course, collaboration. Let me touch on collaboration. You know, my dad often said, everything is easy if you know how. And so if community media can come together, form communities of practice, form associations, this is really key in helping them to share experiences, to share knowledge, which can help them to overcome challenges. By, again, using communication, engaging with the public, they can help to raise to the level of policymakers many of the challenges that they're facing. And of course, policymakers, once they recognize the value created by these communities, they would, of course, be open to the various regulatory, licensing, and policy changes, which could really enhance the growth and impact of this sector. Now, I talked about the importance of I mentioned that UNESCO is doing, quite a bit of work in community media, and I just wanted to showcase very quickly a few examples of this. Here, one of the examples that we have of our work is in St. Lucia. Now, as you know, in St. Lucia had something called Creole. It's a French Creole or Patois, which is widely spoken. Now, interestingly, you have something about like 90% of persons using Creole at home as their main language. However, when you look at the broadcasting, radio and television landscape, less than 1% of this content is being produced in Creole. So what it means then that the broadcasting environment does not reflect the lived daily reality of the average St. Lucian. And so what we did, we worked with Calabash, a local organization, to provide training for some 10 persons, 6 women, 4 men, basically using what they call knapsack journalism. So they were equipped with mobile phones, your broadcasting equipment, etc. And they went out and they were basically pursuing content in Creole, reporting on the news in Creole. And again, I mentioned the importance of viability issues. In this case, it was not possible to develop a full-blown community media entities, but what we did as a sort of a stop measure was to work with traditional radio and television so that we now had this sort of platform whereby this content, which was very much needed, could now be broadcast cheaply, regularly, and effectively using existing audiences to spread information in Creole. Now, again, I mentioned the importance of climate change as one of the threats facing the Caribbean. So we're putting a lot of effort into that area. And so one of the things we've been doing is something called Radio in a Box. And we've currently deployed these portable broadcasting studios. They operate on batteries. So of course, it's something which can still operate during, let's say, any type of disaster, any type of event. And currently, these have been deployed in 3 countries, in the Bahamas, in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and in St. Lucia. Now, one of the things we've done is, again, looking at the whole issue of viability, we have selected different types of partners to operate these community initiatives with. In the case of the Bahamas consists of lots of little islands. So there, it was very useful to have ZBS, the national broadcaster, as our partner. They have the skills to do training. They have the reach to the different communities. And so they take this equipment so that different communities can now develop the skills to do the content creation, producing information which is very relevant, very much based on the community, on the issues that face them. In the case of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the government has been working through schools to, again, raise awareness at the community level about natural disasters. And so here, in the case of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we work with a school who has had experience. It's actually, in fact, one of the schools based in that area, which was heavily affected by the eruptions. And so there we're working with parent teachers associations, volunteers at the schools to provide the necessary skills and training. And finally, in the case of St. Lucia, this is also a quite unique experience. We're actually working with a nonprofit which manages a World Heritage Site, the Pitons, which also contains a volcano, the only volcano in the world that you can drive into. And there, they have actually already been using radio on the FM band to reach out to the community. Now, with this portable equipment, what this is doing, it's now extending the ability of this community to share more voices. As you'd imagine, persons would have to come to the studios, and of course the studio can only accommodate so many persons. But now with this type of equipment, you can go out, you can engage different youth groups in terms of using the equipment, and of course really getting that sort of community voice, that community spirit echoed. Another area that we're working on is we're currently doing a mapping of Caribbean broadcast regulations. We're looking at various countries across the region, trying to understand to what extent do the legislations foresee or anticipate the needs of community radio operators. This is still at a very early stage, so I don't have any, this is still work in progress. So of course, I'll be very happy to collaborate and of course gain feedback, insights from those of you who might be interested. And then finally, of course, UNESCO, we've been supporting the community media mandate for a very, very long time. So of course, there are a number of resources which document experiences from so many different parts of the world: Nepal, Mozambique, Senegal, and of course also in the Caribbean. And these are all available online. I should also mention that UNESCO offers grant programs through its International Program for the Development of Communication each year. And entities can apply for grants up to $25,000 if it's a national project. And in the case of regional projects, this grant ceiling goes up to $35,000. Well, UNESCO, of course, we are keen to continue working with partners like UWI and others who are really dedicated to ensuring pluralism, diversity, and of course, ensuring that no one is left behind. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Hector, for that truly informative and thought-provoking address. Your insights on the benefits of community media, especially in supporting community resilience and cohesion during natural disasters, is one that we enjoyed. It is indeed delightful to see the wide reach of community media, and I'm sure the audience agrees with me. Speaking of audience, we are extremely grateful that you chose to be with us today. And just to show our appreciation, we will be giving away some talk credit. Here's how you can win. If you are on Instagram, please follow at UWI Mona WJC. Send us a DM with the hashtag, the power of media. We will be rewarding the first 2 persons to do so. Thank you in advance. And I know that many of you have burning questions for Dr. Hector. So, without further ado, we will be moving to our question and answer segment. We will be taking the questions from you, the attendees. So feel free to type these in the message fields on your Zoom meeting and also on YouTube. We can already see that most of you have been sending in questions. But before we go to our first question, there is a little giveaway, another one for you guys. Who can, or the first person to type in the chat and let us know the longest running media house in Jamaica? So let me repeat the question. What is the longest operating media house in Jamaica? All right, so one of our moderators will highlight the winner and we will contact you privately. We will be delving right into our question and answer segment. Dr. Hector, I will be posing the questions to you, and these are questions that our attendees have posed. Diane Williams, it sounds like there is the assumption that community media not only reaches more targeted audiences, but also has a higher influence on audience members. Is there any research into this?
Yes, I answer. I go ahead.
You can go ahead and answer.
Yes, good. Yes, well, thank you. Yes, indeed. I mean, a lot of the research which UNESCO has taken, and this is across many countries, has really shown this. Again, as I said, very often we are looking at groups who normally do not have their voices heard, people who are outside of the mainstream, and of course, when you approached, you're given the opportunity to, again, sound off on the issues which are key to you and also to gain information which solves your problems. This is something which is really tremendous. I mean, we've seen, for example, community media being used in, for example, educational contexts. Sometimes in some countries, you have areas where it becomes extremely difficult for persons to access schools. Sometimes the terrain, the climate is inhospitable. Yes, so really, and I would urge you to look at and I'm of course very happy to share with the organizers the references to those publications which I indicated at the end of my presentation, which would allow you to, of course, delve much more deeply. And let me also make a pitch to you. As I mentioned, one of the things we're doing is starting to look at regulations in the Caribbean, and we're especially interested in trying to identify examples of practices in the Caribbean where community media have been helping to support the progress on the Sustainable Development Goals. And if that's something which is of interest to you, please, do reach out to me, p.hector@unesco.org. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Hector. There is another question here. Churches are very integral in sharing information to a community. Are you working with church groups to share information as well?
Yes, of course. We work across the board. We see faith-based organizations as very important partners in advocating for development. And I think the message that many churches bring, the quality of people doing good to others, I think these are all very foundational concepts which are part and package of the this whole thrust to ensure the well-being and betterment of every person.
Okay, thank you so much. Another question for you. What is the community media's role in education in general, as well as specifically in furtherance to preparation and resilience to disasters?
Okay, so so again, I think in most cases, the primary responsibility for education, this is often with the host government. However, as we've seen, we're in changing times. Education is also quite broad, I must say. If we think about it, you know, we often talked about basic literacy, reading, writing, arithmetic. Today, we have an expanded repertoire of what literacy entails. So, for example, we hear people talk about media and information literacy. And of course, this involves not only basic reading, writing, etc., but also being able to analyze content, analyze messages, to understand what the motivations of the purveyor of these messages are, to have the digital skills that are necessary. We hear also about financial literacy. And some of these literacies may not necessarily be covered in the school curricula. So I think the community radio in general has a key role to play in disseminating a lot of this information to persons who are not within the formal education system. And that is something which community media is very well placed. And I know, for example, here in Jamaica, there is a community media called JET. It's in St. Mary's, if my memory serves me correctly, and also Abeng. The communities they serve are persons in the agricultural sector. And so they focus on bringing to these farmers information about new developments in crop technologies, new species of new fertilizer application processes, and of course, we hear climate change, understanding how this potentially is impacting the productivity of their fields. So yes, so I see community media as having a really, really key role. And maybe if I just mention one more thing, I know, for example, in countries like Dominica, in Suriname, in Guyana, we do have also populations of indigenous persons. And I shared with you the example from St. Lucia, where you have much of the national broadcasting content being beamed out in a language which, of course, though spoken by everyone, is, you know, that main language, Creole, it's not being present there. So again, in those communities, having access to content in your mother tongue, in your mother language, this is something which helps to support the development of that language. And it's also another important aspect of helping people to see themselves, to strengthen their identities, and of course, to help them to recognize that there is a place for them, a place for their language, a place for their culture and their traditions in this evolving world. Thank you very much.
I am so glad you actually touched on that, Dr. Hector, because there was another question asking how community media also contributes to preservation and promotion of Caribbean culture and heritage. So you answered that in the last bit of your question there, your answer, sorry, there. We have other questions coming to us via Zoom. What role does community media play in fostering social cohesion in the Caribbean region? I think part of the answer for that was also in your presentation to us when you highlighted how the benefits of it during natural disasters. Have using the community media or even radio, community radio, to reach those. I also saw where you guys did a study in Mexico or a promo on that, a publication rather, where during a storm in 2023, community radio was used to communicate with those that were victims or that were trapped in the storm. So that is rather great. I think that would have answered the question there. There's another one for you though. Does the financial vulnerability extent affect the ability to withstand the impact of disasters? Can they afford power backup?
Yeah, okay, yes, of course. Based on the financial resources which are available to you, that is, of course, something which will impact your ability to respond. You mentioned power backup, so I think by power backup you might be referring to, let's say, things like maybe diesel or gasoline power generators, and while this might be cost prohibitive for some operations, we, thanks to technology, we now have the prospect of using, let's say, solar, small array of solar cells. For example, the radio in a box which I mentioned, this runs off 12 volts car batteries, so it's fairly easy for someone to have maybe one or two of these batteries uh, recharge via solar, and this is something which provides a sort of a somewhat more sustainable solution. I also want to share something. I mentioned in my presentation about the need for business plans. Also, something which is important is the whole aspect of what is your business model, and simply, that means how do I serve the customers, the community of interest, and how do I obtain the various resources which would then allow me to continue my operations. And of course, you may receive this in cash, or it may be in kind, for example. And there are experiences from a number of community media operations where, for example, let's take the case of solar. People would, let's say, use solar power because they were remote areas, there was no electrical grid, and they would supplement. They would then allow persons with cell phones or other devices to use these solar charging systems at some type of nominal fee, which would then bring in additional revenue. So I think a lot of creativity. I'm glad to hear that you're involved in communication and business marketing, because I think you're very well placed to bring together both the technical skills, but also the people skills and financial skills, which are really crucial to making community media and any type of entity succeed. Thank you.
Thank you so much for answering those questions. Dr. Hector, we have one final question for you. How will media bridge the gap in creating a strong connection between Caribbean islands, seeing that CARICOM is not doing a great enough job?
Well, I don't really know the answer to that question. I think there's a lot of progress which is being made with various CARICOM entities. I think many of you perhaps know about CBU, Caribbean Broadcasting Union. One thing I can say, though, is that based on some of what I've seen so far, the tools, the processes, the supporting environment for community media at the national level, it's not really there. Perhaps maybe what we need is some interventions at the regional level who could perhaps share model legislation, which could then be adopted by states to improve the context of the community media within countries. But I think ideally, at the ethos of community media is this whole idea of how do we activate from the grassroots, how do we find solutions locally and then move these solutions up. And so I think we need to think about how to work from both ends, from the bottom up, from the top down. And I think another very important resource are also our diaspora, because very often our diaspora, they're living in other countries, they're seeing different types of contexts, different types of solutions. And I think by bringing that sort of inside, outside knowledge, we can adapt models from other jurisdictions and use those to, help to improve what we're doing. So thank you very much for your questions, and it's been a pleasure really being here with all of you.
Thank you so much for responding, and thank you for engaging with the audience. We really appreciate that. And guys, it's now time for another giveaway. Remember to type your questions, well, your answers to the questions in the chat that's on Zoom or on YouTube. What is the name of a Caribbean television network that's known for producing original content highlighting Caribbean culture? I'm going to repeat. What is the name of a Caribbean television network that's known for producing original content highlighting Caribbean culture? All right, giving you some time on that one. And for the second question, can you name an influential Caribbean media house that has been operating for over 50 years? So can you name an influential Caribbean media house that has been operating for over 50 years? And just to let you guys know, the winners of the first giveaways, our winner on Instagram was Ricky Tyrell, and our winner on Zoom was Kimon Williams. Congratulations to you both. We will be announcing the other two winners soon. All right, guys, it was really great having you interact with us during our question and answer time. We will now ask Jordan Milton, another member of this IMC group, whom or that is responsible for planning and executing today's public lecture.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Good morning, everyone. I'm Jordan Milton, an integrated marketing and communication student in the Faculty of Humanities and Education here at the University of the West Indies, Mona, Western Jamaica campus. I am a member of the organizing committee for this event and, above all, a proud Caribbean native with a passion for media. On behalf of the UEWJC and the organizing committee, I am pleased to be able to thank some of the exceptional people who have made this entire experience possible. Firstly, I would like to thank everyone joining us online via YouTube and Zoom. We appreciate your presence and hope you have enjoyed the lecture, which I must say was very interactive and informative. I would also like to thank the technical and administrative staff at the WJC campus who provided invaluable support and guidance in the execution of the event. Thanks are due to the director of the UWI Mona Western Jamaica campus, Dr. Patrick Prendergast, course lecturer and IMC program coordinator, Dr. Alpha Obika, UWI Western Jamaica campus administrative assistant to the director, Ms. Carla Edwards, and our course tutor, Ms. Nadira Spence, for their unwavering support and guidance. I would also like to thank my team members, Sherika Pasley, Paul and Edwards, Celine Richardson, Craig Graham, and Tashana Nelson, who have worked diligently for these past few weeks towards making this event not only possible, but a great success. I must give a special thank you to our sponsors, Lloyd's Department Store and Yendi the Stylist, without whom we would not have been able to realize this morning's event to such a successful degree. We hope we'll have the opportunity to partner with you again in the future. Very importantly, I would like to thank our keynote speaker, Dr. Paul Hector, for delivering an exceptional lecture filled with important insights. Your expertise is greatly valued and has no doubt made a significant impact. As a member of the IMC program here at the Western Campus, I must say that I have been personally inspired by your presentation. And I sincerely hope that the audience has as well. And so once more, I would like to thank you, Dr. Hector, for providing the centerpiece to what has been a remarkable lecture webinar. Unfortunately, you are not here with us physically today, but rest assured, you will be receiving a token of our appreciation at a later date. Thank you. And I invite my colleague to take the mic once more.
Thank you all. Thank you for joining this insightful discussion. We hope you have enjoyed this event, and we do urge you to submit your feedback via the link posted in your chats. Thank you once again for joining, and enjoy the rest of your day. Walk good.
It's